know who you are. Awesome. All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. Marc Randolph, thanks so much for joining me today on the Hot Drinks podcast. How are you doing today, Marc?
I'm doing well, thanks, Sean. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to diving in. We've had this scheduled for a while, so I'm looking forward to hearing some of your stories. I've been enjoying your podcast as well, and maybe we'll touch on that towards the end. But you're also a veteran of the podcast world.
I'm not quite sure veteran is the right word,
Right.
but I'm in it.
You're jumping in.
I'm in that world now. Yeah, I'm
Hook,
making
line,
mistakes
sinker.
in public.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. This medium is for sure. All right, let's jump into it. Let's hear your favorite hot drink in the field.
Well, listen, I struggled with what stories to tell because obviously I've been in the field for, since I was 13 years old. I took my first NOLS course when I was 13 years old.
13?
13.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Did you have to sneak on that one?
No, back then the adventure courses were 13, 14, and 15-year-olds.
Wow.
It was kind of crazy too, because I got sent across the country by my mom with me not really have any clue whatsoever what I was in for. She had just read something. Maybe she had seen 30 Days to Survival, the famous NOLS movie that took place back in I guess that must have been the mid 60s, early 60s, and said, this is just the thing for me. And it wasn't that much of a stretch. I was already totally an outdoors kind of guy. I was
even at that age.
Yeah, I knew that was what resonated for me. And I think she saw that too. So she goes, this is his chance. Well, it'll give him a chance to really see what this is all about. But it was pretty shocking because this was this kid who's plopped on a Greyhound bus all the way from New York,
all
the way across the country, changing buses in Denver for the little local one up to Lander, Wyoming. And there I am wandering down Main Street, buying myself a cowboy hat. It was 13. Quite a shock.
I can't believe it. You must have been a mature 13-year-old. Can you imagine putting a 13-year-old on a bus across the country now?
It was a different time, because listen, we can get this. These are different types of stories.
Sure.
But it was not too many years later. I think when I must have been 16 or 17, when I hitchhiked to across the country to Wyoming. So that was a totally different thing.
Yeah.
I go, can't believe I did that. But anyhow, there I am, this young kid. But the point is, I was a little guy. I was just trying to find myself. And I loved that course so much. I came back again when I was 14, then came back again when I was 15.
Oh, wow.
And it was on one of those two courses. I'm going to say maybe I was 14 or 15. And I think the statute of limitations has expired. So I can probably share with you who my instructor was. And it was Bill Murdoch. Okay. And the reason you say, why is he saying the statute of limitations? Is because I'm going to tell you a story which verges on child endangerment or some other thing like that. But it was a crazy course because it was all guys, I think. We were all, 15 years old. Those adventure courses are brutal to work.
And this was in the Wind River Range, or was this in Idaho?
This is in the Wind River Range, because back then they were all in the winds. Paul Petzold sent us on our way. Paul Petzold
so he was still
greeted
around?
us when he came back. He was still around.
Wow.
He signed my diploma.
Nice.
I should have that framed. But the thing was, we had one of those really brutal days. We were at the point in the course where we weren't hiking with instructors anymore. We were doing leader of the day. So it was just a handful of guys, and the instructors were packed up, left first, and they showed us in the map where they would meet us at the end of the day. And we, as 15-year-olds, would be goofed around all day and all morning, and finally decided we had to get on our way. And it was a pretty brutal day. And it was up and over, I think, 2 passes, pretty long haul in the backpacks. And we finally get to camp. And of course, the instructors aren't there. And we double check and triple check. And we are sure we're at the right place. We're at the right lake. And it becomes clear when they roll in, maybe half an hour, 45 minutes later. And what they had done was kind of hiked a couple hundred yards away, hid in the bushes, and just watched with great amusement as we basically screwed our time away and left. But what they did was come back and inspected the campsite. And Bill Murdoch goes up to me and goes, I'll tell you what, Mr. Randolph, I found a whole bunch of macaroni noodles all scattered around your campsite. Of course, I didn't know what to say. And he goes, we found some moleskin and we found some pieces of string. And I said, I'm sorry, I'll be really more careful next time. And he goes, I know you will, because you're going back to clean it up.
No.
Wow. And so the next day, me and my people in my cook group packed it up and hiked all the way back, cleaned up the campsite, hiked all the way back again in a single day, which was doubly brutal kind of thing. And this is not a story of action and adventure, but it sticks with me forever because it probably is the moment where I realized I had to take responsibility for my actions.
Yeah.
And I owe Bill Murdoch for that, for saying that there's consequences when you do something which has impact on other people. And in this case, of course, it was minor, but so much of the NOLS course at the time was about low impact and about disguising your campsite and making it clear no one knew where you were. And he was going to demonstrate that this was not just words, this was real. And I had to take responsibility for that.
What a powerful lesson.
It was incredible. And there's one more thing
today.
From the same course, which I'll never forget either. So I'm going to roll these two into one.
Sure.
We were doing our climbing day. Campsite was on one side of the lake, these beautiful cliffs, only you see in the winds across the lake. And so we all traipsed, hour around the lake slowly to the place where they'd been a little earlier, set up the top ropes for us to practice our rock climbing skills. And probably halfway through the day, begins getting cloudier, gets darker, and starts to rain. And we're all looking at each other nervously.
Right.
And of course, the Murdoch's going, so what are you so nervous about? And I go, well, my sleeping bag, it's out drying outside my tent. And he goes, ooh, that is a problem, isn't it? And I go, and I don't have a raincoat with me. And he goes, that's okay. We'll be finished in half an hour or so. And then, of course, half an hour later, we're wet. We all hour hiking back, wet and cold, get back, spend the night in a damp Polar Guard sleeping bag.
Right.
And I tell you, that made even more of an impression on me about personal responsibility. And to this day, I go out. I just, I mentioned it before we got on live here that I'm up in the Sierras now, and I'm doing these training hikes for a bigger climb I'm doing in a few days. And this was a beautiful bluebird day. There's no rain anywhere in the forecast, but I never leave the car without the extra layers, without the raincoat, without the mittens, without the hat, without the first aid kit. I mean, my kids.
You got that leader's pack.
My kids tease me mercilessly about how overprepared I am.
Right.
But it's one of those things where all of us who've spent enough time in the mountains know, well, you never know.
Yeah. Yeah. It just takes one time like that. It's amazing that, wow, what an instructor he was to have that influence and the insight and the foresight to do that, because he'd done two other courses or one other course and, hadn't had that experience yet, but it sticks with you for sure.
It certainly does. I mean, I think one of the things that's wonderful about NOLS, at least, but it's certainly about spending time in the mountains or in the woods to begin with, is the fact that there is such a reliance on personal responsibility, that you have to take care of yourself. You have to take care of your team. You have to take care of your partners. You have to take care of you, that you can't ignore those things, that actions have consequences.
Yeah.
I did, this is not necessarily a story, but we'll flash forward. God, how many years is it? Probably 25 years later. Stepped away from NOLS for a while. I taught at the school, then came back, was a business person for a long time, left one of my companies and had a chance to have some time. Right. And at that time, I was spending more and more time doing winter backcountry skiing and things. And I kind of realized that my skills were circa 1982, right. When I had done the winter instructor's course.
Right.
And I go, just maybe things have advanced a little bit in winter travel.
Leather boots and everything have evolved.
And we were using those back then on the winter course. We were using those Army surplus wooden telly skis.
Wow.
So I said, okay, I need to kind of become current. And there's no one else who's going to teach me that but NOLS. So I'm going to sign up for a NOLS course. And I signed up for this backcountry snowboarding, which was in the Tetons. And, basically it's 2 weeks in the winter.
Had you snowboarded before then?
Yeah, I had done a lot of snowboarding.
Oh, okay.
Inbounds and a little bit of out of bounds, but I had never really done overnight. That way.
Expedition,
And they called it, backcountry snowboarding. But my joke, of course, is that they should call it backcountry shoveling, because I think 90% of your day you are shoveling, whether it's digging your shelter, digging your kitchen, digging your abbey pits. I mean, anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. That's how you stay warm.
That's how it is. It's exactly how you stay warm. That's why those kitchens are so ornate.
Right.
But anyway, the reason I was telling the story is that it was a really interesting cast. So it was myself, and at the time I was 45, in my mid to late 40s. And then there was a 23-year-old. There was a few 21-year-olds and then 3 18-year-olds.
Oh, wow.
So there was a slight age gap.
Yeah. You probably expected a little bit of an age gap going into it, though, did you?
I did completely. Okay. I knew what I was getting into, and I was totally fine with it. In some ways, it was great. Mm-hmm. But I had done a ton of mountain travel, and so I was pretty comfortable with that. But anyway, the reason I'm telling the story is this personal responsibility piece is that, especially as you know, in the winter, you have better have everything dialed down. You put something down, walk away for 10 minutes and it's snowing, it is gone forever.
Yeah.
And I had this real conflict because I had two, I'll say tent mates, two cave mates,
right,
that were 18 and 20. And I struggled because I know that the lesson should be when I see them leave the kitchen and go to bed for the night and leave all our shit out, I should let them. Right. I go, but that's my shit too. I was like, there's total tension about the lesson, or do I? Yeah,
right. That must have been hard because you're not their instructor, but it affects you.
Exactly right. And I go, that's part of the value of it. So, but I'm not sure I want to spend the rest of the course with no pot lid or whatever the impact was going to be.
I always say that the longevity of NOLS instructors is partially akin to NOLS instructors camping separately from their students. Instead of, cooking jointly, they cook on their own. And so if we had to cook every night and rely on the students every night, I think our burnout factor would go way up.
My daughter had an interesting observation yesterday because she was choosing between whether to take a 4-week contract or a 2-week contract. And she goes, the nice thing about the 4-week contracts is that for the second half, you get to spend a lot of time apart.
Yeah.
So like the two-week one, you're teaching the whole time. So it's a little bit different.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
Yep.
Right on. All right. So moving along, you're getting a bit older. What's up next for your next story?
So this one was not too many years later, but I was now probably 16. And I was trying desperately to become a NOLS instructor. Because back at the time, I guess I was 17. Okay. Because back at the time, you could become an instructor at 18.
Wow.
And now it's 21.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was on this course, and this point, this was a mountaineering course.
Okay.
And so there's a tremendous amount of individual group travel. And there was this classic situation where you're on a descending ridge coming off a summit. And dropping down from the ridge are numerous sub gullies that all lead down to the bottom. And you're kind of saying, at one point, I'm willing to drop from the ridge, descend the gully, and exit that way. And the further you go down the ridge, the more tired you're getting, the more tempting it is to shortcut it down the face.
Wow.
And the more accessible these gullies seem to appear from above. And I was leading this group, and I was one of the more experienced climbers, probably of that group, the most experienced climber up there. And we had done the ascent fine. And this is again on the way down. And I said, okay, this looks like it'll go. And we began heading down. And I was trying to think how to phrase this. It was not a miscalculation of whether it would go or not. It was clearly down climbable. It was probably mostly fourth class, occasional low fifth class scrambling.
Oh, wow.
But perfectly safe and comfortable for me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And not for, it turns out, a lot of the other people in my group.
Right.
And what should have been a fairly simple, safe, quick descent turned into a long, multi-hour scrambled, careful, roped descent down. And again, no lives were lost, no limbs were injured.
Right.
What it did was send this really big lesson for me that it's not about judging my ability to do something. It's about the strength of a team. And as I think, you know that so much of what I've done outside of the mountains and outside of NOLS is in business, and more specifically in entrepreneurship, where you're taking on these things that haven't been done before. You're taking on challenges of totally different sites. You're trying to navigate your way to something. And I never have done it by myself. It's always with a team. It's with a co-founder, with a small group of people that you bring together. Yeah. And that lesson from not just that occasion, but from multiple other times where I completely misjudged other people's ability. Right. And as a result, made it miserable for myself, was a really impactful lesson for me. Yeah. That I've taken with me forever. That it's leadership is not about how strong you are. It's about the strength of the team. It's about judging people's individual strengths, individual weaknesses. And the mountains can teach you that.
Absolutely. I just had a thought about, translating that into business. I could see at times where you're hiring people and you think they're on the same wavelength, and I'm hiring this person for these skills because I have them and I need someone else to clone me, or, if you have you been in those situations when, you've maybe hired people with the anticipation that, they have the same skill sets as you or the same skill sets that you're requiring them. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, we got a backstep.
Oh, all the time. It's impossible to know what someone's capable of until they actually see them doing it. Mm-hmm. So, but I become completely comfortable with that. In fact, it's certainly in the business scenarios, what I'm looking for is being really careful not to judge someone on what they've done. And unfortunately, too much of hiring is looking at a resume and saying, what have you done? What's your past experience? And so much of it has to be, what are you capable of doing? Right. And one of the not to get too businessy here, one of the things that we do is you say, what needs to get accomplished? And you almost make a little movie of what are the things that someone will have to do over the next 6 to 12 months to get that accomplished. What things do I see them doing? And then I ask myself, what skills do they need to do those things? Right. And then it's really evaluating someone on what I think they're capable of. Yeah. I mean, it really is amazing because almost everything I think that I've learned about business leadership, I learned in the mountains. I mean, there's so many lessons that have come from that. It's such
Yeah.
an incredibly instructive thing for leadership.
Absolutely. And a couple of the points I think from that too, in terms of leadership on a NOLS course and in the wilderness, is I love the fact that it's just so immediate. You know, so many people take management business courses, especially if you're an undergrad, you're doing management courses. And then like 10 years later, you might become a manager or, you know, years later. But on a NOLS course, like you do a class or a lesson, or you have that lesson where you've got to go back and get that, clean up that campsite. And like the next day, it impacts your day. Like you can use that lesson tomorrow.
It's it's absolutely that. In fact, in teaching leadership, it strikes me as ridiculous that you can learn that in a classroom, that you can take classes on leadership.
Yeah.
Where at NOLS, they'd say, even when I was 13 years old, I'm 14 years old, and they go, you are in charge. You decide when to leave. You decide what route to take. You decide how long the breaks are going to be. You decide whether you're going to go over the pass or you're going to go around and follow the valley. And then the amazing thing is you find out almost immediately how good of a job you did as a leader.
Right.
You make a mistake, you find out. You do something well, you find out. And especially in a NOLS scenario, not to turn this too much into a NOLS commercial, but especially when you have an instructor who after the fact sits you down and goes, did you consider maybe trying this or trying this? Or that you don't need to lead from the front, you can lead from the back. It's a style that's situational, coupled with actually doing it day after day after day after day. God, what an amazing, amazing classroom. Yeah. But it's also this comfort, just being comfortable with uncertainty. It's, I mean, again, it's striking out. I can see the summit, but I can't see the route. Yeah. And I certainly can't see the weather. And I currently can't see how full the rivers are right now. And I certainly can't see how thick the willows are. Mm-hmm. And I have to be situationally aware and change what I do based on what I encounter and based on the strength of my group and based on how we're all feeling. And I have to then, if I'm a leader, make decisions, which way we're going to do it, and then communicate it with confidence and clarity, even if I don't have that much confidence and clarity in what we're doing.
Right. Yeah.
And when I go into this business world where I'm now doing startups, well, lo and behold, I can see the summit, but I have no idea what I'm going to bump into along the way. I have no idea about how my team's going to do it. I'm completely okay with it. And I've got to communicate with confidence and clarity that we're going this way, even though I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. It's an interesting, it's a really interesting parallel. I mean, I owe so much of what I am to all that time I spent in the mountains.
Absolutely. One other thought from that lesson where you were down climbing on your with your group and coming into kind of that instructor mind frame, it must have really kicked in after that, because, you know, as instructors, we think about, you know, we do personal trips because we want to heighten our own skills so that we don't have to heighten our own skills while we're leading others. And we always say, you know, there should be that kind of gap between your skill level and the highest level that you're taking people on. And that was probably a lesson you're learning as a 17-year-old. That's a lot to learn.
Exactly right. Yeah, it's that. It's also coupled, of course, with your sense of false competence. And I mean, there's so many weird things to learn when you're out in the mountains.
Right.
I think
most 17-year-olds can't get past themselves. So it was an eye opener to start thinking about the team at that point. It
is very true. But that's why it's so fascinating to have that lesson taught to me so directly. And then again, someone's able to interpret that for me. Yeah. You know, had you adequately assessed the strength of your group, you would have been home 2 hours ago. And instead, you're struggling. Wow, that just, you feel it. It's not just an abstract lesson. It's a very, very real one.
Yeah, it's that experiential learning cycle of the what, now what, so what.
Yeah, exactly right. That's
and you went right through it. You know, too many times people have those experiences like that, but they don't get the so what part. They don't get the instructor to debrief it, or, you know, the group to debrief it. And they just have that experience and they go home. Yeah. And they miss a valuable lesson. And that's one thing that you get to do is pick that apart of like, hey, what can we pull from this? So
yeah, I got to go do some more classes. I have some more learning to do.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So you're getting a bit older now. All right. When did you become an instructor your first time?
So I did, in fact, make the instructor course when I turned 18. I turned 18 in April, did my instructor's course in June, and went out on my first courses in July and August. So I was right into it, age 18. Yeah. Wow. I think at the time I was the youngest instructor in the field.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether it was, this is not one of the stories I was planning on mentioning, but I'm not sure it was on purpose or not. But what do they do with this 18-year-old youngest possible instructor is they put him on an outdoor educators course.
Really?
Yes, like average age of 32 or something like that.
Yeah.
It was really eye-opening. But there was a lesson in that too. Again, I wasn't even planning on mentioning this, but what that taught me is that respect is gained from competence, not from age or title. That
absolutely.
In fact, I was terrified to get up and teach a class in front of people who were so much more experienced and so much older than I was, and had these jobs in outdoor education already.
Right. Yeah. A lot of these people are classroom teachers and other outdoor education teachers that want, to heighten their skills. And so it can be intimidating, but it can also be a lot of fun because they get it.
Yeah, it's very true. And then, and you see that all of a sudden you go, wow, I do know a lot about this subject, and I am able to add value to this person. That's it was a really kind of an interesting thing. Here's another weird story. These are going all over the place. You're going to have to edit like crazy or whatever.
No, this is great.
So I'm not sure whether I mentioned when we were recording or beforehand that my daughter is a NOLS instructor.
Yeah.
And she was.
How long has she been working for NOLS?
4 or 5 years, 6 years.
Yeah.
Fairly long. I can't keep track anymore.
Yeah.
But that's actually part of the story, is that she shares my passion for the outdoors, maybe even more so than me.
Wow.
And so she's been deeply into it, very experienced. She was an intern at NOLS Patagonia, I think when she was 16.
Oh, wow.
And she had her wilderness first
responder.
EMT. Wilderness EMT. I mean, so she had led trips. This is all when she's like 16, 17.
So she was on that track for a long time that she was going to go this way.
But of course, NOLS, by then, to be an instructor, you had to be 21.
Right.
And she, I think, is 19.
Right. Well, and it's still, let people know, it's extremely rare to have a 21-year-old instructor. Like the average age of an instructor course, I think was years ago was 27. So just because you can be 21 doesn't mean like half the instructors are 21.
Exactly right. But it was for her, I was going, God, I would love to be a NOLS instructor. She, of course, had done a bunch of NOLS courses, which was, of course, expected. And she's going, God, it's kind of crazy that it has to be 21. Right. But one of the things that I taught her and taught my other kids is that no doesn't always mean no. And I don't mean that in a Me Too-ish sort of way, but I mean that
more in a sales kind of way.
Certainly in a sales kind of way, which is that there's so many cases where people will say no because they're trying to screen or winnow, and that in fact there's many, many ways to find a way to yes. And we had many examples, and I had a whole bunch of examples from my past where I wouldn't take no for an answer, and eventually, lo and behold, you get it. Right. And I go, you should just apply. And she goes, but I'm 19. I'm going to be 20 next year. Right. And I go, so what? Go ahead. And I happened to be on the NOLS board at the time. And she goes, but you're going to, and I go, I swear I am going to stay completely out of this.
All right.
But you should apply. And so she applied. And of course, hugely qualified in terms of all the background of experience she had, but of course, not 21. And unbeknownst to me or to her, there had been this long time discussion going on at NOLS about should we stick to this 21, especially for women who are historically had a shorter career path at NOLS. We wanted more NOLS female course leaders.
Yep.
Would it help if we started people earlier and gave them more years before they aged out of the NOLS workforce?
And I'm guessing, just to jump in, historically, women probably applied later than the average male, probably simply for confidence.
Yeah, they applied later. They applied less frequently,
Yeah.
and would usually not stay engaged. I mean, I think I left early, but you stayed teaching for quite a while, and so the average longevity of female instructors was less. So fewer of them were accumulating the field weeks to move into course leader positions. Right. So there's a lot of incentive to say, how can we structurally change this to give ourselves a more diverse workforce? And she waded into that unbeknownst, and in some ways became almost a Jackie Robinson for trying someone younger. And so she actually got it. I mean, the long story short, was accepted, in fact, to take the instructor's course when she was 20 and work in the field when she was 20.
Wow.
So there's these really interesting parallels. And now here's the really creepy part. You know what her first course was?
Not an educator.
Outdoor educator course.
No way.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? Isn't that kind of crazy?
Wow. That's
so
too many parallels.
Makes me think that, oh my God, I think this must have been purposeful.
Yeah. Wow. You know, I've got 3 girls now. They're 9, 7, and 3. So it makes me wonder what the future is going to hold for them hearing these stories.
Yeah. It's one of the big challenges of parenthood for people like us who, where being outdoors is such a big part of our life, is you desperately want your kids to love it. I mean, certainly you want them to love it for them, but I'm not, I'm not altruistic. If they did, then it's not me going off in the mountains isn't me time. Oh no, it's family time.
Right.
So,
Kill 2 birds with 1 stone there.
Yeah. And it's that challenge that we all know that one of the things about being, that one of the things that you develop as a person by being in the mountains is that that sometimes the tremendous reward takes tremendous sacrifice. And that one of the things you do as you get better is you recognize most things in life are like that. And that mountaineering teaches that very directly, that if you're willing to hump the pack for 2 days, and then you're willing to suffer in the cold and the hypoxia for 6 hours, you have out of world experiences. But that's hard lesson for someone who's 7 to get. And so how do you gradually, it's a big challenge.
Yeah.
But I tell you, I don't know about you, but like for me, the first time I was out in the water surfing with my kids was magical, but I wasn't pushing them into waves, I wasn't chasing after to tow them back out.
Right.
But we were surfing as peers. I went, oh my God, this is the best possible thing.
I look forward to that day. I'm sure you've had those skiing or biking or all of
Absolutely.
your sports.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there gets to that tipping point where they become better than you.
It's a challenge for me, put it that way.
Yeah. Right on. All right.
I'm sorry. I'm actually doing Rainier again on Monday.
Wow.
And my son is going to be leading because
he's working up there?
He was working up there. He did a couple of years as a guide. And so he knows the mountain really well. But again, it's kind of a cool thing to be led by your son.
Yeah. I look forward to that one of these days. Wow. That'll be a neat experience. Have you been up to Rainier?
Oh yeah. This will be number, knock wood. This will be number 4. So not a ton, but enough to have a pretty good idea what to expect.
Yeah. Oh, great.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. So moving along, you're an instructor now. What some experiences you had there?
I'm sure you've had other people. I don't even know how this expression really goes, but what is it that there's old mountaineers and there's bold mountaineers, but there's no old, bold mountaineers.
That's exactly.
Yeah. And I think all of us hear that. And all of us think it applies to the guys doing the 8,000 meter, guys and girls doing the 8,000 meter peaks. And they go, no, I would certainly know where my boundaries are there. But what I think, there are certain things that take place in your life that drive home that it's not necessarily that level of risk, which leads to potential consequence.
Right. I was now an instructor, and this was a advanced rock climbing and mountaineering course. It was in the winds. And so essentially it was all climbing, which, at the best. And as one of the final activities, there were going to be some instructor-led difficult climbs. And so I had picked 3 or 4 other students to come with me. And we were going to do a 2-day
a 2-day ascent. It was going to require a bivvy.
Wow.
Ideally, if we could, just below the summit.
Do you remember what peak it was?
I can't, and
Okay.
I wish I did. And I've occasionally gone back and tried to figure it out.
Right.
And I just,
I'm sure you can picture it in your head.
oh my God, completely clearly.
Right.
Because it had quite a number of, it had a couple of difficulties to it that made it so time consuming. And to start is that just getting to the base snowfields required crossing this 400 or 500 foot knife edge ridge.
Wow.
Very narrow ridge, which led up and then actually ended. You could kind of then would traverse over, and you could be on the approach snowfields to make your way up more toward the mountain properly. But this was a really, really tricky climbing because it was that stuff that really was too narrow to walk on top, except for very small sections of it. For most of it, you either were doing brief descents to traverse to climb back up, or at times doing that wonderful thing where you hold on with your hands and almost traverse
Right.
hand by hand across sections, but almost all of it roped up and just so exposed, so exciting, beautiful rock, just this beautiful gradual elevation ascent of this ridge. And of course, we all finally make it up, but now it's getting to be late morning. Now it's a long approach up the snowfields, but this peak has a very exposed face, probably 3,000 feet of exposed face to it. And our plan was to ascend the ridge, which is on the far side of the mountain from us. Okay. So we had to cross the snowfields all the way up to where we could gain the ridge. And of course, we had to stay far enough back from the peak because it was throwing, this time of the morning, it was just starting to warm up and throw all kinds of crap down on us. And so we're wandering our way across the snowfields, no problem. We gain the ridge, begin working our way up, kind of mixed 4th and 5th class climbing. And lo and behold, we gain the summit right before sunset on that first day. Wow. Decide to stay on the summit, watch the spectacular sunset, descend maybe only 300 or 400 yards where we can huddle behind some rocks.
And this was going to be your bivvy for the night?
That was the bivvy for the night. Wow. So so far, so great.
Right.
And I have this gift. I can sleep anywhere. Not so good at it now, even sitting on my own bed. Right. Back then, you could, perch me in the cold, on the rocks, in the wind, and I'm out. Yeah. And of course, I'm out. And so that's done. And they're all up all night, like shivering, commiserating, which was one of the wonderful things about climbing, and you get to do that. So the next day we begin down, we're retracing our routes, going down, doing short rappels down the 5th class sections, and flashback to Mark, 17 years old. As we're moving down the ridge, I'm looking down the face and I'm going to myself and going, it doesn't seem that bad. It looks like we could scramble most of the way and then maybe just do a wrap at the end onto the snowfield. Right. And, for those who are just listening, that was me hitting my forehead with my hand. I go, I think we can descend here. And of course, it was 17 revisited, which of course it was wonderful for the 300 or 400 meters that I could see. We're scrambling down, going, this is great. We're going to gain the snowfield quickly. I can still see there's going to be some cliff at the end. Right.
Was this the original route you had planned, or were you?
No. Okay. I was supposed to go all the way back down, repeat it. But I didn't want to go all the way down the ridge. And I figured this is great. And because of the way this worked, obviously when I said a 3,000 foot face from the summit to the snowfield, it was 3,000 feet, but the snowfield angled up and the ridge angled down. And of course, at one point they met. So there was zero cliff. Right. And as you could pick your place about how much descent there was. Right. So it begins getting steeper and steeper. And now there's some sections we do have to do some short rappels. Do a couple of short rappels, no big deal. Now we go to do one more rappel. And one of the students, these are students, I'm letting them do this. They're setting up their rappels, they're setting the anchors.
With very limited sleep.
Yeah, very limited sleep. And for some reason, one of the people gets ready to do the rappel. He throws the rope, down goes the rope, and the rope continues to go down.
No.
And the rope drops and is gone.
Threw the whole rope off the ledge.
Threw the whole rope off the ledge.
Oh,
and we had two,
man.
And so we have 2 ropes. So we're still we're not going any further for this. This is not something I want to do as it's getting darker. So now, and we're on a ledge. You know, we're not sitting in the grass. We're sitting on a ledge.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I take this back. So, this is the story. We're not there yet. We lose the rope. Okay. And now we're wrapping down on 1 rope, which is okay. There's shorter rappels. And the rope gets stuck as we're trying to pull it.
Right. At the end.
And this is the point where I go, I'm not going to climb up. It's getting dark. It's getting late. And I go, I am not going to up climb to free the rope now. I go, we're staying put for the night, and we're on a ledge. And so there we are, bivvying a second night. And this time it's not on a nice flat spot sheltered by a rock. It's literally on this face, on a ledge. One of those, it's a ledge big enough to sit comfortably, but not big enough to lie down on.
Right.
For the 4 or 5 of us. So once again, another pretty hairy night, where this time everyone's clipped in.
Wow.
So in the morning, up I go. Wake up, carefully self-belay myself up, do manage to free the rope, finish the rappel down now with our shortened rope, retrieve the second rope. And I go, okay, now my troubles are over. And we're now descending, still 4th and easy 5th. And then we finally get to this last piece that I knew was there, which was the last cliff face down to the snowfield. And I'm looking down and going, God, that looks like pretty far. I mean, that looks like a lot more than I thought it was. And we do the first 150-foot rappel, no problem, onto a ledge, all clipped in. Do the next rappel. Again, it's even steepening, no problem, get us all down to a ledge. The third one is now it's a free rappel, and I can't quite see if the rope has hit the hit the snow or not. I know it's close, and I go, shit, it's a free rappel. It's going to be really hard to find a place to stop, at least for students.
Right.
All right. So I said, I have to do something I normally would not do. I'm going to go first. And so I set it up to explain, here's how I want you guys to do this once I'm gone, and begin rappelling down. It's a free rappel. And of course you get halfway down, and all of a sudden you're free and you're spinning, and I'm going down, I'm going, oh my God, it's going to be close, going to be close. And the rope ended about 4 feet above the snow.
Way.
So I was able to then go, okay, and then be able to rappel off the end of the rope and drop onto the snow. But wait, there's more.
Oh man.
All the students come down. We're good. And now it's not late, but it's probably noon maybe. And we're working our way through the snowfield, and we have to kind of navigate our way to where that ridge, the knife edge ridge starts, to find our way back on that one.
No one's come looking for you at this point, have they?
Not yet, because I think the protocol was noon on next day. Yeah. And so I knew that they were probably starting to gear up to come looking for us right about now. The last insult to injury is we're working our way up the snowfield and it whites out, which I've never experienced before. Which was this thing where we were doing rope travel because it was steep snow, and I literally couldn't see the students who were behind me.
Wow, living in a ping pong ball.
and our tracks were melted out from before.
Right.
So I was basically saying, man, I've got to be careful here, because if I go too far to one side, I'm going to miss the place where the ridge takes off from. If I go too close, I end up close to the cliff without knowing it, where I'm exposing everyone to rock fall coming off the face. But anyway, we made it. Made it back. We're finally clearing the cliff right when we bump into our rescuers who are on their way up, and all of us safe back to camp. But a couple of interesting things from that. I am sitting there going, at the moment when we're sitting on the ledge, when the rope is stuck, when we're doing an unplanned second night bivvy, and I am sitting there with my head spinning, going, what am I going to do? This is iffy. Mm-hmm. If weather comes in, this will become pretty epic and dire. Yeah. If there's rockfall, this could be epic and dire. We're not in a good situation here. And 1 second later, one of the students turns to me and goes, "This is so cool." And the other one goes, "Oh yeah, this is exactly what I wanted to do when I signed up for this course." So it made me realize that maybe we all had different mental attitudes about our current situation.
Attitudes and perspectives.
Exactly right. But the other thing that occurred to me was, I went, mountaineering is an odds game. Every 10 times you do a climb, well, something minor happens. Well, every 10 times a minor things happen, a major thing happen.
Right.
Every 10 major things, an epic thing happens. And every 10 epics, well, one of those 10, you die. And I go, all right, it's time for this guy to begin being really careful to steer clear of the epics.
Yeah.
I go, I just not a position that I'm prepared to put myself in. Yeah. And I became a non-bold mountaineer, I think, from that point forward. I still do a bunch of stuff, but
sure.
I'm very, very cognizant of where that edge is. And I'm especially careful to stay a long, long way to the right side of it.
And I'm going to be different when you're leading others. Yeah, exactly. You want to be the one, but it's so different when you're leading others. It's like, well, hold on now. Like, I'm pushing my comfort zone, and I'm with people that are like way out. They're so far out of their comfort zone. They think this is cool.
Exactly right.
Yeah. It's like sometimes when they're so excited, you're like, I'm glad you're excited, but you really have no idea like the situation you're doing.
I took my son, I wanted to take him ice climbing for the first time. And so we were living in Italy at the time. And so we flew to Chamonix and hired a guide. And we went out and did a great day of climbing. And the next day we were in the hut that night and planned to do something a bit more aggressive the next day. And it began snowing. And the guide goes, obviously, we can't do the route we were planning on, but I tell you what, we can do the climb up to the tram station. And I go, well, that'd be kind of cool. And he goes, because that way it saves us having to hike our way back up to the tram station. We'll just climb right up to it. And it was fantastic. I mean, it's climbing in blizzard conditions and the ledges of snow on them. And I'm just going, God, this is fantastic. Right. And I look over at my son, who's at the time, 15 or 16. Yeah. And he has this sense of, oh my God, he was terrified.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And of course, but because I kept going, we're doing stuff I'm really comfortable. This is nothing. It's bad conditions, but the climbing is totally fine. And of course, it's one of those climbs where you get to the top and you're in this blizzard and you just open the steel door and you step in and then you're in the tunnel.
Right. Usually one of those, like I've been on one of those. Yeah, that's incredible. You don't have those in North America.
No, they don't. No, the Japanese tourists are there and you're kind of coming in covered with snow and the ropes. And of course, afterwards, my son goes, God, that was actually, looking back at it, that was really cool.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a fun thing to be put in the situation when you in fact are protected, but you can have that feeling of being, wow, this is actually pretty intense.
Awesome. Yeah. I love the quote that says adventure travel is only glamorous in retrospect.
I was talking to someone this morning about startups, and I said that the times that you actually remember the most fondly are the most difficult times.
Yeah,
and I think
exactly.
that
You don't
again,
remember the times we're on the couch watching movies.
Exactly right. You remember the times when you go, God, this is crazy hard, and then you go, that was so cool. Yeah.
All right, but I got a few minutes left. I'm going to get to my rapid fire questions, but I'm personally interested, kind of what was your transition out of kind of field instructor life, moving into entrepreneurship kind of in those early years?
It was easy because
I just ask you, because there's so many instructors that it's such a hard transition. And especially the longer you work at NOLS, it is a hard transition to what comes next. So I'm just interested. And obviously it was a different time.
It's a good question. For me, it was easy because I started so early. For the most part, it was a job while I was at college.
Yeah.
I was working summer courses. I worked for 1 year after I graduated from school, but I was never tempted to make a career out of it. I shouldn't say I wasn't tempted. I managed to not end up doing that.
Right.
I had other opportunities that were handed to me that made it impossible for me to stay on working as a NOLS instructor. Right. And of course, for years after, I would go, God, it'd be so cool to be still doing that. But of course, the way it worked out fine too.
Yeah. And then obviously you didn't go straight into entrepreneurship. You got in the corporate world for a little while and then eventually went on your own. No,
I did entrepreneurship almost from the beginning.
Right away.
I was, In fact, we don't have time for a long story here, but there was a client of my father's, an extremely wealthy cotton trader who sold this company, had more money to do with, and was buying properties all over the place. And he had taken a NOLS course as an adult. And he was so impressed with his instructors that when he heard from my father that I was a NOLS instructor, he hired me, sans interview, sight unseen, to run one of his properties, which was this ghost town in Colorado that he was turning into a resort. And all of a sudden, there I was, just out of school, way over my head, trying to run a business and start a business. And I never looked back from wanting to do my own thing from that point on.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. It's, I had that entrepreneurship brain in me. And like all the years I was working for NOLS, I'd come back home to my childhood home, my friends, and like, when are you going to start something? When are you going to start something? It's like, I'm living the dream right now. Like I got time for that. And I always knew someday, I would get into kind of entrepreneurship and that, but at the time it's such a great life.
It absolutely is. Listen, don't be in a hurry. I tell everybody, chill, pursue your passions. The life's too short to be doing stuff you aren't ready to do at the time, when you have things that you love doing at the time.
Absolutely. All right. Okay. We're going to get to our questions, rapid fire questions in a second.
All right.
Before we leave, I want you to tell folks a little bit about your podcast and where they can find you and your book and all that great information, because you've had so many years of wonderful wisdom. We've done a whole podcast. We're almost over 55 minutes now, and we have not mentioned the N-word.
That's
Netflix,
good.
That is that word. I don't know if this is the first time you've been on a podcast without mentioning that word until the end.
No, in fact, it was just fantastic. Actually, it's very refreshing. So I appreciate it. It's talking about what, quite frankly, is something I love even more than Netflix, which is outdoors, climbing, leadership, expeditions, adventure. So believe me, I'm delighted. No, so to learn everything you need to know about my other life, it's just 4 words. It's That Will Never Work. That's the name of the podcast. That'll Never Work. And that's the name of my book about the early years of Netflix and about basically ideas in general. It's my Instagram handle, but it's called that because that's what everyone says whenever anybody has an idea for something new or different. And it's what everyone told me when I was pitching them Netflix. All the investors, the employees, my wife said that'll never work. But it's a reminder to me that no one knows anything, that everyone says that will never work. And the truth is that nobody knows. And so what my book is partly to try and demystify what happens at a startup, that it's not like this one genius guy with an amazing insight and boom, there's Uber or Airbnb or Netflix, but it's a team. there's triumph, there's tragedy, there's difficulty. The idea fluctuates. And I wanted to tell that story. I wanted to give you all the tips that I've learned in my 40 years as an entrepreneur about how they could turn their ideas into reality. Yeah. And on the podcast, I do exactly that. People who are trying to turn their ideas into a real company, or try to take a side hustle and make it real, or take things to the next level. And these are mentoring sessions on the air. They're just me, 30 minutes working with someone, trying to nudge them to the next step. And amazingly, even to me, the people are really interesting. The businesses are crazy.
Yeah, sure. And they're all over the place.
Yeah, it's been so fun. And more importantly, these days we're all given all those Instagram worthy quotes, think less, do more, or, collide your idea with reality. And of course we all go, yeah, sounds good, but how? Yeah. And what I'm trying to do is actually show people how. What are the real steps you do? So that's my pitch. Yeah. You can find all the rest about me at marcrandolph.com. So if you don't have patience for 30-minute podcasts or 300-page books, you can get it all cut up into tweets and Instagrams and TikToks and whatever you want.
There you go. Awesome. Yeah, I've read the book. I did the audio book. I highly recommend it. NOLS gives a good shout out in there. You talk a bit about your NOLS experience, and it was very valuable. And I'm joining the podcast. I look forward to the follow-ups, maybe in a year or so on the podcast with the follow-ups of the guests. Yeah.
So I'll tell you the story that was in the book about the my experience with lightning on a climb, which was also a hair-raising adventure, if you know what I mean.
Right.
Well, maybe you and I don't know what we mean.
We did it one time.
Exactly. Well, listen, Sean, this is great. Thank you.
Okay. Here's the rapid fire. Here we go. So what is your favorite location to do trips or to lead trips when you're leading them?
Lost Coast, California.
Yeah.
You know the Lost Coast Trail?
Yeah, I know it. I haven't been on it.
Oh my God, that's spectacular. Yeah. That's just spectacular. So it's blending ocean with wilderness. Really cool thing. Oh. I love the Sierras too, though.
Yeah. I've done the Olympic Peninsula that coastal hike, and that's cool too. All right, favorite piece of gear, something that's been with you a long time or that goes on every trip.
Oh God, that's a good question. What's my rapid fire answer? I have a stupid NOLS hat that I insist on bringing all the time. It's one of those wool hats with the ripstop nylon shell on it. Looks so stupid, but sheds snow, is wind resistant. Yeah. And you look a little bit like a Keebler elf, but it's my go-to.
All right. I don't know if your courses or the trips you've been on have been into costumes, but I always ask, what's your favorite backcountry costume or something that you've seen others use?
The best one I've seen, it wasn't me, it was a bear costume.
Oh, no way.
Hilarity ensued. I can tell you that. People freak out, especially when the bear begins doing somewhat irrational things in the kitchen. So
someone brought a bear costume?
Yeah, that was actually a NOLS instructor who came back. The students were on final expedition, and then he hiked in to where their last campsite was and dressed up as a bear.
No way!
Had some fun, which I thought was pretty amusing.
Yeah, you've definitely covered this question, but maybe it's a short answer of what do you like most about, or what did you like most about working in outdoor education?
Oh gosh, that's a great one. I loved it. Clearly there's some people who you see you've shifted them. Some people come in those courses and they're not going to like it. Their parents sent them. This was the alternative to going to juvie or whatever it was. Yeah. They're not going to be changed. And some people you see the passion in it the minute they step off the trail. Mm-hmm. But there's some people who at the beginning are hesitant, unsure, and if you can play a role in having their eyes open up, oh my God, that's the coolest. That's the coolest thing. Not to mention all the time that you get to spend out in the woods going, oh my God, I am being paid for this. Yeah. This is the best thing in the world.
Camping for dollars.
That's right. Fantastic. We do complain.
Yes.
But man, it is such a blessing.
We do get jaded from time to time, but for the most part, it's incredible. All right, last question. If you could go back to any one location you've been to share a hot drink with a friend or a co-instructor, where would it be? Any one spot?
You mean some place that I've climbed or camped or been?
Yeah, sometimes some places you've been in the world, in the wilderness, that you could go back to one spot.
Oh God, I'd go back up to the No Attack probably.
Yeah.
Have you ever been up there?
I haven't. I've been up close to that. I haven't been on the No Attack. I've been in some other rivers up there, but yeah, that's up in the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge.
Yeah,
in the Brooks Range.
Yes, exactly. And just I didn't go up there till recently. It's probably 4 or 5 years ago, and I've spent, I guess you had 3,000 nights in the ground. I forget what your stat is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm like at 500 or 600 and I'm going, that's a lot.
Yeah.
But this changed my definition of what wilderness is. It was, I mean, when I first, we canoed it. Yeah. And at first you're going, this isn't that impressive. The mountains are low. It's slopey.
Right.
And then mile after mile after mile. And all of a sudden you begin to realize that the grandeur is measured in a different way. And it's you don't see a single sign of people, not a plane, not a fire ring, not a piece of trash. It moves you. Yeah. I'll go back there in a heartbeat if it wasn't so damn hard to get to.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Well, this has been a real treat. I don't want to take up any more of your time. I've really enjoyed chatting with you and hearing your stories. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Sean, it's really been a pleasure. I'm all pumped out just from having spent an hour chatting about this. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Well, you'll be all geared up for your trip up Rainier soon. Fantastic. All right. Well, I'll let you be, but I look forward to keeping in touch and following your adventures. And hopefully I'll get out to California someday and we can connect for a little trip sometime, maybe.
The Lost Coast.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
One thing about Lost Coast, you've heard it probably with Peninsula too, is that because half of it's below the tide line.
All right.
All the signs of people who went before you have been swept away.
Yeah.
So every day you're going, I'm the first person who's ever been here.
Nice.
It's a really cool thing. Anyway, I hope we can do it together. That'd be fun.
That would be awesome. All right.
Nice meeting you, Sean.
Yes.
Good luck with everything.
You too. Bye-bye.